It was a crisp winter evening when I arrived home, the frosty air clinging to my coat as I pushed the door open and stepped into the warmth of our modest townhouse. The soft glow of streetlights filtered through the blinds, casting elongated shadows on the walls. As I shrugged off my coat and set down my briefcase, the familiar comfort of home should have embraced me. But something felt off. "Emily?" I called out, my voice echoing in the stillness. The silence stretched, oppressive and heavy. Emily always greeted me when I came home, her smile the balm that soothed the weariness of my day. I glanced at the mantel where our wedding photo sat, a testament to the love we had built over 5 years. Her absence was unsettling. I wandered through the house, my footsteps muffled by the carpet. When I found her, she was in the study, seated by the window with her back to me. She didn't move or turn, even as I approached. Her silhouette was rigid, her shoulders hunched forward, and her hands were clutching something I couldn't see yet. "Emily?" I said softly, stepping closer. She flinched, just slightly, but didn't respond. The air around her was thick with something I couldn't quite place. Sadness, perhaps, or regret. I circled her chair, and my heart sank when I saw what she held. It was an old photograph, creased and worn, of a man I recognized all too well. His name was Jason. Her first love. I had known about Jason since the early days of our relationship. Emily had spoken of him candidly, back when we were still learning each other's secrets. She had told me about their whirlwind romance during college, a love that had burned bright but ended abruptly when he moved abroad. She had assured me that she had moved on, that her love for him was a chapter long closed. Yet, here she was, holding his photograph as if it were a fragile, irreplaceable treasure. The room seemed to close in around us as I knelt beside her. Her eyes were glassy, fixed on the picture as though she could see through it to a different time. "I thought I was over him," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I told myself that I'd let him go, that I was ready to build a life with you. But then I saw his name today." "Where?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. "In the news," she replied, her voice trembling. "He's back. He's here in the city." Her words hit me like a physical blow. I had always believed that Emily's love for Jason was a relic of her past, a memory that had faded with time. But now I wasn't so sure. "Do you still love him?" I asked, the question tasting bitter on my tongue. Emily turned to me then, her eyes shimmering with tears. "I don't know," she admitted. "I love you, Mark. I do. But a part of me never let him go." Her honesty was a knife to my heart. I had always admired her forthrightness, but in that moment, I wished she had lied. I wished she had told me that Jason meant nothing, that the photo was just a relic she stumbled upon by chance. Instead, she was telling me that her heart was divided, and I didn't know if there was room for me in the part of it that mattered. The days that followed were a strange blur of silence and avoidance. Emily grew distant, her mind clearly elsewhere. I would catch her staring at her phone, lost in thought, her expression a mix of longing and guilt. Sometimes she would leave the house late at night, claiming she needed some fresh air. I didn't have the courage to ask if she was meeting him. One evening, as the tension between us reached its breaking point, Emily sat me down in the living room. Her hands were trembling as she held mine, her eyes fixed on the floor. "Mark," she began, her voice shaking, "I need time. I need to figure out what's in my heart. I owe that to you, to us, and even to myself." I nodded, unable to speak. I wanted to tell her to stay, to fight for what we had, but I knew that would only push her further away. So I let her go, watching as she packed a small bag and walked out the door. The emptiness that followed was suffocating. The house felt hollow without her presence, every room echoing with memories of the life we had built together. I tried to keep busy, throwing myself into work and distracting myself with mindless tasks, but nothing could fill the void she had left behind. Weeks passed with little more than a handful of texts exchanged between us. She told me she was staying at a friend's place, taking the time she needed to sort through her emotions. I wanted to ask if she had seen Jason, but I couldn't bring myself to hear the answer. Then, one cold morning, she returned. I was sitting in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee, when I heard the front door open. Emily walked in, her face pale and her eyes weary. She looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of her decision had physically diminished her. "Mark," she said softly, setting her bag down. I stood, unsure of what to say. The silence between us was heavy, but she broke it first. "I saw Jason," she admitted, her voice steady but subdued. "I needed to see him, to understand what I was feeling." Her words sent a pang of jealousy and fear through me, but I forced myself to listen. "And?" I prompted, my voice tight. Emily took a deep breath, her gaze meeting mine. I realized that he was my past. What we had was real, and I won't deny that I loved him deeply. But he's not the man I want to build my future with. You are, Mark. I needed this time to be sure, to put that chapter of my life to rest. Her words were a salve to the wound in my heart, but they didn't erase the pain of the past weeks. I saw the sincerity in her eyes, the determination to move forward, and I knew that I had a choice to make. Forgiveness didn't come easily, but I chose to try. Love isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance, about choosing each other even when it's hard. Emily and I began the slow process of rebuilding our relationship piece by piece. In the end, we learned that love is messy and imperfect, but it's also resilient. We faced the storm together, and though we were both changed by it, we emerged stronger. The scars remained, but they were a testament to our journey, a reminder that even when the heart falters, it can find its way back home.